Michael Kirby is a friend and mentor to many. He is the Pride in Diversity patron. We're very lucky to have him. Please welcome him to the stage.
Thank you very much for introducing me and for being here today as our MC, Stephen. And thank you all for coming along to this fabulous luncheon which will celebrate pride in diversity in employment and where awards will be granted. Now, I have to correct a couple of things that Stephen said, because you learn in the law that unless you correct the record, particularly of News Limited, it goes down. Don't want to be beastly, or I never threw newspapers for my partner Johan. That's an urban myth. I wouldn't have been. Oh, was it in the Herald? Fairfax Media. I wouldn't have been ashamed to do it, but I was still sleeping at 3 a.m. when he went off to deliver his newspapers. And I am not very good at throwing things, and it would have been impossible and didn't happen. So let's finish that. If you had been looking not at 5 a.m. but at 7 a.m. at my website, you will have seen that I added there a letter I got this morning from the Patrician Brothers College in Fairfield in Sydney, New South Wales, where I went 2 days ago to speak to the boys. It's an all-boys school, and the principal of the school sent me a message saying, "Thank you for your talk to our boys, and it was wonderful. We were glad you were there. God bless." Now, that's a very different message that happened 10 years ago in the year 2000 when I went to Riverview College, another Catholic school. So it does indicate things are changing, change is happening, and we're all here today as witnesses to the change, but more important, not just witnesses, as people who are engaged in the change. Straight and gay, we are here to say enough. We're fed up. It's over, the discrimination's finished, and we've got to change our country and its laws. I was very grateful for the welcome to country this morning. And I pay my respects to the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, because the Aboriginal people of Australia suffered greatly through the law. They were victims of unjust laws. And we are one of the oldest democracies in the world, but in the end, it wasn't our parliaments that changed the failure of our law to recognise native title. It was the 7 justices of the High Court of Australia. Just as earlier, the 7 justices of the High Court of Australia decided not to allow the banning of the Communist Party. Diversity, respect for diversity, respect for difference, ending the infantile insistence that everybody has to be exactly the same. That is the infant school. That is what kids do when they're very, very young. And when we grow up, we see things much more clearly. And this organisation, Pride in Diversity, is a contributor to the seeing of things more clearly. I want to congratulate Dawn Hoff for what she does. I want to congratulate her team. I want to thank Jackie Weaver for coming today. She's told me she's got all the jokes. This is the old soft and hard. And this is the hard that you're getting now. Jackie's going to come up and throw love and light, and we'll all feel the better for it as we move through this ceremony to recognise the big firms and corporations that are going to be recognised in these awards. I don't know if you saw in The Economist about 6 weeks ago, there was an article about homophobia in business. It was a thoughtful article, a full-page effort, and it ended with a statement that the big firms the transnational corporations are finishing with prejudice and discrimination against gay employees, and they're doing it, so the article asserted, because the heterosexual employees of these companies are insisting that it be done. They feel uncomfortable if companies don't give equal rights and equal protection. They feel uncomfortable if there's discrimination in the workplace, and they know that it's good for business and good for the image, good for good relations within the business to have a modern attitude. And that's why it's a wonderful thing today to see some of the top names in business in Australia here doing their bit, contributing, making a difference. But the real question we've got to ask ourselves is, what is the next step? What is the next step? How do we move from recognising the very large corporations which have a great record in this? I've known these corporations over my judicial life, and I've known that they have moved in the direction which we see at this ceremony today. But what of the haberdashery out there in Gilgandra? Or what of the petrol station in Wagga Wagga? Or what of the grocery store or the 7-Eleven shop over there in Albany? I mean, this is the question. Most Australians are employed by rather small businesses. You remember that was John Howard's skill in reaching out to small business, and all politicians do that now. How do we reach out to small business? If you ask where it is really difficult to come out, it is, I believe, in small business in regional, rural and remote Australia. That's where the journey is really hard. Now, I was in a comparatively small business. I mean, the Court of Appeal had 10 judges. That was a small business. The High Court of Australia had 7. Very small business. And I know that it is hard. It was very hard, and it's still hard for many people in different parts of our country. When I was President of the Court of Appeal, and my partner Johan rang me, we had a code. He would dial twice and then stop and then dial again. And I knew, aha, that's my partner. And that is something that continued right through my public life, right through my judicial life. I held these highfalutin offices, but I had to watch it. And that was something imposed upon me, not by individuals, not by people being nasty, but simply because that was part of the ethos of the world and of our country. And if we think at this happy ceremony today that everything is changed out there in regional, rural and remote Australia, well, we're kidding ourselves. It hasn't changed. And we can celebrate and rightly honour the corporations that will be honoured today. But what Pride and Diversity has to now think of is, what is the next step? How do we take it out to the small companies, to the very small firms, to the partnerships, to the business companies? How do we have a list that honours them in their different categories and encourages them and gives symbols and examples of how things can change with people who are willing to change? Now, last week I was invited to attend before the Senate committee, which is looking into marriage equality. That issue is not the issue on our table here today, and I wasn't going to get involved in the issue, but when a Senate committee invites you to come along, your duty, I think, is to do what you can to help them. So I went along to them, and one thing I noticed was a lot of people were talking about their faith, their religion, something we never used to do in Australia. This is something we used to keep quite private. It was something which we kept in the private zone, but it's increasingly coming into the public zone. And I had to tell them that in my journey in life, seeing the steps that have led to an occasion like this today, every step of the way has been opposed by many people in the religions of Australia, which to me is a source of great sadness as a person who has not given away my religion. They opposed the removal of the criminal laws against gays. They opposed the equal age of consent. They opposed the laws against discrimination in the workplace in the 1990s. They opposed the right to adoption. They opposed the equal rights to pension, superannuation and other benefits. This is a very sad situation, that people of the spirit, people who speak for religions of love, are the people who make it difficult out there in regional, rural and remote Australia for ordinary citizens to change. And if you're in doubt about this, read the article in this morning's newspaper, the Australian newspaper, about the situation following President Obama's announcement last week in the United States. So, things are not yet fixed, but help is to the rescue. I bring out of my pants, where I keep all good things, a wonderful book, a book that everyone must get. And now, in my judicial years, there's no way I would have done something as vulgar as this. But this book, A Private Life, I mean, it used to sell hardback for $35, but my heart bled for the students who couldn't afford it. Now, looking at you, there's no problem in the moolah department. And you can afford it, and this book is out there on the table just waiting for you to buy it. This is the paperback, and it is selling for $25. And there is no excuse, and it has wonderful stories about my trip to Riverview, about the salvos, about my schooling, and most importantly about my long-suffering partner Johan. And I commend this book to you because I challenge anybody out there in regional, rural and remote Australia to read this book and still hate gays. I mean, we've all got to get over it. It's a non-issue. We've got to change minds and change hearts. And the way we change minds and change hearts is straight people and gay people working together for equality and justice under the law for everyone, no exceptions, and in particular in places where people are thrown closely together, which means our workplaces where we work together, and that's why an occasion like this is so important. Jackie Weaver's book out there, Much Love Jack, is on sale, another prize-winning book. This is a day for you to dig into your pockets, dig deep and dig often, $25. Anyway, congratulations to the runners-up, congratulations to the winners. I look forward to seeing many of you here again next year. I thank Dawn and her team, but next year we've got to think of maybe a bigger list and maybe new categories and reach out to the people who are often part of the problem. We must be part of the solution.